And 5, 4, 3. Remember when Freddie would do that on iCarly? I have to say, iCarly was the thing that got me into the internet. I remember one time somebody at school when I was like 16, 15 was talking about how they wanted to be just like iCarly and start a YouTube channel and start a web show. And then that's what I did. And that was about 17 years ago. And now here I am making internet content, hour number like 10,000. And here I am making Life in Bold episode 72. But the cool thing is, and I'm excited to announce, and maybe it will turn into something and maybe it won't, but I'm excited to announce that I now have a brand new platform for podcasting. And the platform is something that I'm really enjoying so far. I've actually had it for one whole day, and I've recorded an episode of a podcast for a client with Ben Hawes HQ podcast recording that I'm really excited about because it just turned out to be such a fantastic episode. The audio was better. The video was better. The capabilities of the platform in editing were so much better, and it was so much easier to identify what I wanted to edit and how I wanted to shape the story of the podcast, that I'm so excited that I'm feeling like Life in Bold is coming back. I'm really feeling like that. And we're on episode 72. I don't know if you guys know this, but 72 is closer to 100 than it is to 0. And so I'm feeling like we're kind of on the final stretch toward episode 100. And maybe in 2026, we can get there to episode 100. I remember there's an influencer that I really respect and admire, Victoria Brown. And she used to be called Victoria Garrick, and then she got married and all of this stuff and whatever. But she always talks about how for her first 100 episodes of her podcast, she didn't get much attention, she didn't get much audience, she didn't get a lot of reaction, and not a lot of people were coming up to her talking about the podcast and talking about like how much they loved it or whatever. Then she did a 200th episode live show, and she talked about how much different it was in the second 100 shows versus the first 100 shows. And I think that really speaks to how difficult it is to podcast, because to get to 100 episodes is quite literally difficult. And the thing about it that I really respect and admire about Victoria Brown and her ability to get through the episodes, some of them are with guests, some of them are with really famous guests like Katie Couric, some of them are with less famous guests like her own mom, and then she also does solo episodes where she connects with her audience, just like I'm doing right now. And I just want to like really celebrate the fact that I'm on episode 72, because I saw a meme one time that basically said that like 80% of podcasts don't get to episode number 2. And like 90% of podcasts don't get to episode, 10 or whatever it is. And then 99% of podcasts never make it to episode 21. And I am on episode 72. So I would really love to know what percent of people are in my level of podcasting and consistency and like getting output out there, because it's really not something that's easy to do. And I know I've said that for the last 3 episodes, but I am going through a little bit of a transformation, a little bit of what I like to call a renaissance, because I am feeling like it's the end of the year and I am ready to innovate. I'm ready to think about ways that 2026 can be different than 2025 and 2024 and the years before. I personally feel like I have a lot of capability and a lot of know-how and a lot of ability to change my life from a mental health perspective, from a professional perspective, and just from other perspectives out there. I feel like I have what it takes to make 2026 a very lucrative year. I think the fact that I left my job at the training company in 2024, January 2024, we are coming up on 2 years of me having left that job. 2 years. I want you to think about the last 2 years of your life and what has happened. Maybe you've had a child. Maybe you have gotten a new job. Maybe you've had a second or a third child or gotten a new dog. Maybe you have moved houses. Maybe you have started a savings account. Whatever you have done, there's a lot that can happen in 2 years. And because I have been personally focused so much on my businesses and my creation and my ability to support myself based on my own endeavors, I am in a really interesting place. Basically, I'm up for a few opportunities. And that's a really interesting way to say that. But essentially, like by the time I upload this podcast, I may or may not have a job, a part-time job in office management and events. It's going to be something that I'm really excited about. I have a final interview on Tuesday the 2nd. And so if you're listening to this before the 2nd, wish me luck. And if you're listening to this after the 2nd, let me know if you want to know the outcome of whatever interview I went to on the 2nd. Because I'm really excited about this opportunity. It's at a company that I talked about this in my last episode, but like I'm really, 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 really excited about this particular opportunity. My best friend works at the company. She really likes the vibes. She said on her first day, she texted me and she was like, this is totally your kind of place. And so I've put my whole like body and mind and spirit and like personality and effort into getting this job via the interview process, communication, networking, all of that. And I feel really good about it. I might get the job. We might get the job. We might be on the next episode celebrating that I got a part-time job. I want to celebrate the fact that I said we might be celebrating the fact that I got a part-time job, because the kind of topic today that I want to really get to is this idea that there are many ways to get where you want to go. Where do I want to go? Where do I want to go, man? I have so many directions and so many destinations in my life of things I want to accomplish and places I want to get to by the time I leave this earth that sometimes it's really confusing. But where do I want to get is to be stable and to be able to support myself on my own endeavors, and also to be able to essentially just kind of live my life. I realized life is not about reaching a certain level of external success. It's really not. Like, nobody cares about me. Nobody cares about what my level of success is. Everybody is so focused on their own level of success that like I find a great freedom in being able to just be like, hey, this is my life. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm not in any deep trouble and I'm having a good time. Like that's what my life needs to be. And whether that becomes a big profile of musical comedy and business and writing and all of these things that I love to do, or it becomes a very small version of that and I'm going to open mic nights and I'm writing and selling, self-published books that I sell like 2 copies a month, like I'm realizing that detaching myself from the size of the outcome has been very freeing. And I just think that life is about enjoying it, and life is about having the freedoms and the rights to be able to enjoy your life and live the life that you want, live the life that you want to build, and build the life that you have imagined. And so I really just want to talk today about those 2 topics. And there's really 2 things that I want to talk about. And the first thing is really like this idea of Ben Hawes HQ and like what it can do for me in my life. Because I have been, like I said at the very beginning of this episode, I have absolutely been building content for my whole life. I remember, I was home a couple weeks ago and my parents, I don't know if I'm allowed to say, they're moving. My parents are moving within my same hometown. And it's been an interesting journey because they've been like, okay, what do you want to keep? What do you want us to store? What do you want to take back to New York? And things like that in the house that I grew up in since I was 5 years old. And, I really was just kind of like reflecting on the things that I have in my parents' house. And, there's things that I want to keep. There's things that I don't necessarily want to keep. There's things that are important. There's things that feel less important. But one of the things that I just found in my kind of box of stuff that my parents kept throughout my childhood, which is so nice that they did that. And if you're listening, thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad, for keeping things that you felt would be important. I found a lot of stories that I wrote and books that I like self-laminated. And I remember in first grade, I had a teacher that would like have us write books, and, they'd be like, 7-page books talking about how to write a paragraph or whatever. But I remember writing those books, and drawing those pictures and illustrations. And what I think about when I see myself drawing pictures and illustrations and writing stories and putting them together is a producer. Like, I imagine myself at 7 years old, 5 years old, like putting together stuff that was really just about making it happen. And one of my favorite things that people say is when they build something and they can take a step back and just look at it and say like, oh my God, I built that. I made that. That is totally the kind of person that I am. And I enjoy being that kind of person. And so when I was looking through, these items that I was, going to take or store or throw away, I was realizing that I'm a producer. I am somebody who produces things. I produce projects. I produce experiences. And it just made me realize that that's something that I'm really good at. And I have been working with a couple of clients on their social media, which is funny because I don't know that I would have loved the idea when I was 16, or 18, that the work that I was doing and the money that I was making was mostly on helping other people make content. Like that might not have been my exact vision of like what I thought I was going to do, because I thought I would be so on camera, so a big star, and I'd be walking past Jack in the Box and everybody would be like, Ben Hawes, oh my God. That was like, the funny thing is that it is Jack in the Box that I was thinking that at age 18. I was like, I'm going to go to Jack in the Box and the cashier is going to be obsessed with me. And I don't know. I just feel like I had this idea of who I would be. And this person that I am now is a great person. Like, I'm really happy with who I am now, but it just doesn't feel like I have lived up to the exact archetype or whatever that I imagined I would be. And that's true for everybody. Even my friend, I think it's okay to say, my friend Elena, when I met her freshman year of high school, she literally said, I'm going to be a kindergarten teacher. First day of high school. And then she went to college, and then she went to grad school. And after that, she was a kindergarten teacher. And now it's like we're 33, and she's not a kindergarten teacher. She does something else, but she's happy. She's more successful than maybe how successful she thought she would be. And she's happy. She's doing her thing and she's really like into it. And I think that's true for so many people my age, 33, that like you just had an idea of who you were going to be at 16, 18, and it's just not what it is, but it might be a little bit better. Who knows? It might be a little bit better. There might be more anonymity. There might be, more freedom to live the life that you really want to live versus the reputation that you want to have. And so I would be really surprised to know that I make a lot of my social media money making content and producing content for other people. And so Ben Hawes HQ is my services where I make content for other people. So it could be comedians, authors, speakers, business people. And one of my clients is a travel influencer, and he has a magazine and he speaks on panels. And one of the things that he wanted to do was start a podcast. And so one of the things that I'm excited about is podcasting for others, because I'm on episode 72, mother effers. I'm on episode number 72 of Life in Bold, and I am ready. I know what it takes to make a really good sounding and looking podcast episode. I know what it takes to promote the episode. I know what it takes to distribute the episode. And I am not only good at producing, but directing the episodes. And so one thing I'm looking to do in 2026 is really get more into podcast production. I do it with a number of people now, and I also produce a lot when somebody comes on as a guest for me with the podcast. And so that's where a lot of the experience comes with, is like making people feel comfortable, getting them excited, getting them energetic, or like helping them match the mood to their brand and things like that and their objective. And I just really am enjoying that. So if you are somebody who wants to build a podcast in 2026, I know there are people out there. This is the year and I can help you do it. So reach out to me and I can absolutely help you identify what it'll take to make your podcast a reality. And I have the equipment, I have the tools, I have the resources, and I have the know-how to make it happen. And your podcast is just going to exist. And that's going to be that. So Ben Hawes HQ has really transformed into something that I'm extremely passionate about. And that's so exciting because I was so long focused on the photo booth. And my photo booth business is really something special. It's really a creative business. It's an enthusiastic and an energetic business. And it takes a lot of physical effort to be able to identify how to make an event really successful via photos, experiences, laughs. I love the photo booth business and I love Ben Hawes HQ. And so I'm feeling really positive about 2026 because I have a number of proposals out for Ben Hawes HQ. I'm really excited about the opportunities that will come in 2026, but I'm also excited about this part-time job that I'm applying for and potentially going to be getting. Who knows? I'm excited. I'm really in the final round and it sounds really fun. And what this proves to me, what all of that I've said so far proves to me, is that there's just different ways to get to the outcome and to the destination that you want to get to. I think that to me is my lesson of 2025, because in 2024, I had a very specific idea of the path that I was going to have to and need to, and I wanted to take to get to a full-time level of like sustaining my life via my own endeavors. And I thought it was going to be the full just photo booth only. But what it happens to come out as is that the photo booth has seasonality and I have a lot to give. I have a lot of hours in the week and I am so passionate about my own endeavors, my own success. And this part-time job feels like a part of that endeavor. When I left corporate life, like I was leaving because I felt like there wasn't a spot for me. And when I was kind of committing to my own businesses, it felt like it was because there was not a way for me to succeed under that kind of thing. But finding this role makes me feel like there is, and meeting these people that I've met so far have made me feel like, hey, there's something there, like I am really good at these things. And it actually feels like that's what they will evaluate me on in my work there. And so I'm really excited. I think 2026, and I hope this is how you are feeling as well, as you think about what's possible, as you think about what you can change or optimize about 2025 to make a better 2026, I think there's room a lot for us. Whether you're 24, 34, 44, or 84, or 104, I really think that 2026, outside of politics, outside of, things that are really dangerous that are happening across the world, there's an opportunity around innovation. There's an opportunity around authenticity. And I really believe that we as a people can rise up and not only change the world, but change our own outcomes and our own destinies. And there's different ways to get there. That's the lesson that I've learned in the last 2 years. You don't have to get there just because you said this is the way I'm going to get there. It doesn't mean that that's how you have to get there. Testing, figuring it out, and adjusting, and learning, and changing. That's the only path that you need to take. That's the only path that you need to follow. And as we think about Wicked, as we think about, Wicked for Good and the Yellow Brick Road and all of this, it's just really funny to me how relevant that film is, because I genuinely believe there's just going to be tribulations on the yellow brick road. You know what I mean? And you're going to meet different people that you didn't expect to meet. When Dorothy, I know this movie is not about Dorothy, but when Dorothy started to follow the yellow brick road, didn't she just have Toto and she was just going to follow the yellow brick road and then the wizard would help her get home? And then she started to care about different things. She started to meet different people. And that is honestly how I would define the last 2 years for me. I care about different things now than I did in 2024. When I was in 2024, I was absolutely ready to go and be like a learning and development like director or whatever I was going to be. That there would be a lot of pressure and I would be working 60 hours a week and I would be doing this and I would be doing that. And I wouldn't have a lot of time or energy or ability to do my comedy or my podcast or my photo booth or now Ben Hawes HQ. And so what's so freaking beautiful about 2025 even and 2024 is the time that I got to spend struggling and the time that I got to spend not having a 9 to 5 allowed me to be creative and innovative and imaginative. And that's why I've landed in a place where I've realized all of the stuff that I've imagined that has come true and it is coming true there's no reason I can't also have a 3-day-a-week job. And so I'm just feeling really, really excited about the possibilities. And that just feels really happy to me. That feels like I have shifted. I've come over a peak of a mindset where I can rest and I can kind of check in with myself and reflect and pause and continue forward when I'm ready. But as I think about the new year, I'm feeling I'll say it, very energized. And I've started to write more comedy again. I've started to be able to like produce more. I'm doing the podcast. I've done one podcast every week for the last couple of weeks. And that's really new for me because I haven't been able to do that. I haven't had like the time or kind of the money, or I haven't really had the like energy to put out a podcast episode. But as I've thought about different resources and as I've thought about different ways I can do it, this feels right to me. And I love the feedback that I've been getting. So if you're listening to this, please let me know, and let me know, text me and tell me what you thought of the episode, or text me and tell me what you're thinking about for 2026. I would love, love, love to know. But I wanted to end by telling you a little secret into Ben Hawes HQ, because I think I announced this a little bit so far on the podcast, but I'm going to have a new album coming out on February 6th, and it's going to be a collection of 3 songs that are all love songs, and I'm really excited about that. And there's going to be a number of projects that go along with it, like a short film and music videos and things like that. But the other thing that I wrote that I'm really excited about, just kind of like floating the idea around, is a brand new children's book. And I don't know if it's going to go, to the same levels as my first children's book, Bounce Baby Bounce, which is on Amazon, $12.99. Type in Ben Hawes, Bounce Baby Bounce, and it'll come up. It's perfect for babies, perfect for 1 and 2 year olds. And what I like to do with my children's books is kind of dedicate them to my nephew. And as I have new nieces and nephews, I want to continue to write books that are age appropriate for them. So my nephew, Max, is very currently obsessed with like trains and trucks and cars and all of those things, and boats. And I feel like I also am obsessed with those still at this age. I remember like a couple years ago, I was sitting on a bench by the East River, and I saw a train go by on a bridge, and I saw a helicopter at that same time go by. I heard taxis, I heard cars, and I saw a boat, like a tugboat, a ferry. I realized with this book idea that I had that I was melding the 2 ideas. So the idea of gray areas and the idea of transportation. And so I wrote a story yesterday on Thanksgiving, and I really like it so far. And it's all about the different types of modes of transportation, the different types of roads you could take. You could take a ferry, you could take a bridge, you could, take a helicopter, you could take a plane, you could take a train. It's a pretty simple book, but it is for a 3-year-old. And so I'm pretty excited about that idea. It feels really like advicey. It teaches something, it has a theme, and I like the idea that it would help kids understand that like just because Waze says there's one way to go doesn't mean that that's the way you have to go. And it just kind of teaches kids to be different, and that's all I would ever want to teach kids. And so that's also what I would want to teach my listeners here at Life in Bold. So I hope you have an amazing day, an even better week. Happy Thanksgiving, and do not forget to live your life in bold.